2, 1. Hey, welcome. Worship Tutorials Live.
Good evening.
I got to make an adjustment. This microphone is pointed in the wrong direction.
Well, my microphone doesn't have a wrong direction.
I think you're right on
It's
that.
every direction.
It's all directional except behind it and to the side of it.
Hey,
We hope you're having a fantastic Wednesday.
two things.
We're going to
First
start
off,
with a joke.
Well, we're cutting this short because we have a thing.
We have a
Yeah.
thing.
We have a thing.
Anywho,
It's called tacos.
yeah. So get your questions in now, people.
It's going to be a
Question.
not an hour long live.
Get your questions in now,
Be a 30-minute long live.
because we're salty and we're ready to pour some salt on your ends.
Bradford, take it away. Make us
Sure.
laugh.
I thought this was absolutely hilarious because it's just straightforward and it's real.
This is a joke from Bradford.
The detective says, "How did this man drown?" The investigator responds, "He cannot breathe underwater."
Zing!
It's so stupid.
Brad,
I love it.
That is correct.
ask me what the secret to good comedy is.
Don't laugh.
Timing.
All right. We have a little different audio setup today. So,
We're hoping it's
two things. One thing
Way
is I gotta.
Should be.
I can make this better, gentlemen. Tell me when this gets in the frame. Nothing like just setting this thing up.
There it is.
Oh, it's in the frame.
There it is, right there.
Dang.
A blooper reel.
There we go.
Blooper reel.
That's gonna be better. So, we got a new microphone.
Jimmy Rod.
and a new setup. So, if it's if it's clipping on your end, let us know. If it sounds good, let us know. If it sounds bad, let us know. Today, we're talking about making the most of your limitations as a worship leader. And we thought we would, all of us, share. I'm throwing Fuller under the bus because Bradford and I discussed this, but not necessarily Fuller.
I was here in spirit.
We thought we would all share a time that we made the most of limitations in our lives, in our ministries. Brad and I were talking this morning about how it is a truth that often for great leaders, limitations or things that you lack are sort of the impetus that spark innovation. You like that word?
I was going to say
Impetus?
catalyst.
Catalyst is a great word. Yes,
Talk about
innovation.
church buzzwords.
Yeah,
Seriously, we could
innovation
start a
is
conference.
born out of limitation.
Catalyst.
As long as that's your expectation.
There you go. All the Asians this morning.
That's
so
my declaration.
we got more jokes. So
Focus.
I'm gonna start, and then we'll go to Bradford, and then we'll go to
hesitation.
Fuller. I've got two. Actually, I'm gonna tag on to what Bradford's gonna say with a funny story about Fuller that'll make you laugh.
Whoa.
That will illustrate his great leadership.
I have not approved of this story.
Fuller, I'm looking at the video and it kind of looks like you're not wearing any pants at all. If you just glance at
Fuller
the
has a
screen,
concussion, by the way.
That hurt.
if you just glance at the screen and not pay too much attention, you might think Fuller is wearing a shirt and nothing.
Well,
else.
then let's just go ahead and send.
He's got like a pinkish, orangish color
These
pair
are
of pants.
like
on.
salmon.
Salmon?
Yeah.
That's salmon.
That is.
All right,
Oh my gosh.
I do like
That
those
hurt.
pants. I like
You
those
made
pants a
me-
lot,
my head
actually,
hurt.
but they are flesh colored.
They are fleshy.
I'd like to purchase a pair of jeans in like blue or black. No, flesh, please. I'd like to buy them in nude.
Nude. Oh my gosh, my head hurts so
Well,
bad right now.
well, you're not gonna believe this.
We just happened.
We got him.
What size are you? 36?
No way. Oh, this is off to a great start. Okay.
Alright.
Now, I will tell you guys this. The reason that worship tutorials exists, the reason I was able to do this as a full-time job was because I innovated in the presence of limitation. So I was leading worship at two different churches at the time. I've talked about this situation on the channel before, but if you haven't watched that video, which I'm sure most people haven't because there's a lot of videos on the channel, I used to lead...
Search by oldest uploaded.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
led worship at two different churches at the same time, which is an interesting story.
At the same place, though, right?
In the same location.
That's called glutton for punishment.
We were It was one place
I'm a
that
glutton for
hosted. There were 5 different churches that met at this place, and I was on staff for 2 of them at the same time, which was a recipe for disaster, and that's how it ended. So,
Exactly like it started.
yeah, but both of the churches I led at were small churches. One of them averaged between 20 and 25 people.
Wow, that's a small group.
It was basically a small group.
That's
that was a church.
That's a big little group.
It was a church that had planted
Did
and
you use
grown.
multi-tracks and in-ears?
We'll get to there. It was a church that had planted and grown, and then the building they were meeting in got sold out from under them and they didn't know. It just like one day you're like,
Wow.
we don't have a building anymore.
Wow.
And so they like met in parks and rec centers until they could
Jeez.
find a space, and they went from like a couple hundred people to like 50, and then that slowly it
They
died a slow
grew it
death.
to nothing.
Yeah.
Man.
So we met there. The other church I was involved in had anywhere between 50 and 75 people per Sunday. So these are 2 very small
Average,
churches,
yeah.
but I think many of you are in churches that size. Most worship leaders in America are.
Yes.
Most
70.
churches in America
Yeah.
are that size too.
And so I struggled with the same things that all of you struggle with. Lack of volunteers, lack of money, resources. We didn't have all the things you don't have, we didn't have. And I wanted things to sound
And
better.
you didn't really even have social media or
I didn't
places
have-
to ask questions.
Yeah, that was-
or a little place called Worship Tutorials.
This
to get
was
help
like 10, 12 years ago. So
You were probably in the situation that most people are now.
and I wanted it to sound better. So I played
from.
guitar.
You just said that basically.
Yes.
I
Yeah. Actually, keep checking on me.
He was going to emphasize. Yeah, Fuller had a head injury
I
recently.
did. And you can watch the world premiere Thursday at what time?
2:30 p.m.
2:30 p.m.
And not of your head injury, but shortly after.
That was right. There.
That was Fuller with a concussion.
I'm coming after Tato. I'm suing him.
So yeah, I had like a piano player that was more of a couple piano players, and of course they were like the traditional piano, play every note, every part, you know.
Left hand, right hand, middle hand.
And then I had vocalists. I had more vocalists than I knew what to do with in the church of 20 people.
Wow.
They all sang. You know?
My goodness.
Every person who attended also said
The whole church was a choir, actually.
And then like a guitar player or 2, right? And maybe a drummer and a bass player on occasion. So that
Church
sounds-
of 20 people.
That
That's,
sounds well.
that is everyone.
Well, it's like the other one was
Yeah.
50, you know, and we shared team members between the 2. So the same team led both churches.
Oh, wow.
Is it getting weird yet?
yes, it got weird a long time
Yeah.
ago.
So yeah, I wanted something to sound better. So that is why I made pads. I did not make pads so that I could sell them to you. I made them because I had no resources and I had nobody to play them. And I had seen this concept out there, and there were some available, but I didn't like the way they sounded. So I thought I will make some that I like the way they sound, and that's how pads were born.
So the
and we used them.
limitations that you faced
Yeah,
led to innovation.
they did. I made these pads. I used
of the
them
revolution.
I used them for years because I remember having a conversation with you, Fuller, saying, "You know what? I think here's this YouTube channel of people in church.
I remember this conversation.
And I think these people would like to use these pads." And then Fuller being the producer, I said, "Will you listen to these and tell me what you think? Like, are they ready to like package and sell?" And so I made the pads available, and it didn't take long. And before long, I had a full-time income out of that. So my intention there was not to make something and form a company that would sustain me. My intention was to
Get by.
make worship
Yep.
sound like it
Yep.
was more than one person playing an instrument, but not sound like fake or weird. You know, so that's how pads were born. That was the way I innovated in that situation. We'll throw it to Bradford.
Yeah. The first thing I thought of when we talk about this, I could play guitar. You know, I was capable of leading worship and playing guitar, and I was capable of like doing some cool stuff every now and again. But when I got hired at New Hope, I was down in Sanford, North Carolina as the worship leader down there, and I didn't have many team members initially, and then on top of that, as we kept building, I didn't really have many options for electric guitar players. So I would play electric because that kind of allowed me to control dynamics a little bit more and kind of play with the tracks a little bit better that we had, or the other instrumentalists we had and all that. But I started focusing on, well, first off, I either tried to record parts to leave them in the track or to put them in the track so they kind of could sound a little more full. Mm-hmm. And that helped me get a little bit better at recording and get an idea of how that kind of worked. But I wanted to play guitar parts, but I didn't want to leave them in the track. So I started practicing, and I was like, I need to play lead guitar better. This was 2012.
Yeah.
2013. And I could still handle some things, but I needed space. Like, I couldn't just try to start playing lead guitar while I was singing. And, a lot of times lead isn't like lead. Like, when some people hear lead, they think of like, the riff to Reckless Love on the turns. Like, that's more lead. But in like a verse part, you're not going to have something that intricate that often. So I kind of learned different voicings because I didn't want to just keep playing G chords or cowboy chords.
More advanced rhythm.
Yeah, and I played some more voicings, which actually led to stuff sounding better, but it also, I played less. Like, I realized, I learned how to create parts or to play the stuff on the album because I was like, well, all I'm doing is these big fat chords and it doesn't sound very good. It sounds like and this is always my example, and it's never a bad thing, but it's like, do you want to sound like Hillsong or do you want to sound like Cutlass? Like, if you want to sound like Cutlass covering Hillsong, you play big fat chords. If you want to sound like Hillsong,
a lot of gain.
Play less. Yeah. Like, you play less notes and you play higher up and you save those big chords.
More
for when
intentional
you need
notes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I started learning how to do lead stuff while singing and leading worship, and that just made me a better lead guitar player anyways, which is kind of, some people probably don't even know now my job is YouTube and guitar lessons and customer support for Lambertones and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't realize, like, I'm a worship leader. Like, that's what I do. And so playing lead guitar, especially doing stuff here with Brian, I became a better guitar player because I was limited. The limitation was I didn't have anybody to play lead guitar. The limitation was I didn't have musicians. So I was like, okay, so I can sit here and cry about it, or I can grab on or hold on to what I know my limitations are and do what I can to fix that. Finding people and recruiting is absolutely one way to do that. But I do know that, like, I will have a guitar player every week if I'm the guitar player. Like, I'm there. I can play guitar. So I decided to start operating from that and get better at guitar. And, there are times where I wouldn't play the lead exactly like the record because it just wasn't, sometimes it's not easy to go from singing to playing it. So you'd have to change a little bit. But it made me a better lead guitar player to the point where I would probably rather play lead guitar than sing and lead songs.
Yeah.
But all that came because I was limited, and I was like, let's figure out how to do this.
My lead guitar journey is similar. Several years ago, when we were at New Hope, Fuller, being the worship director, told me, he's like, we need lead guitar player at our main campus almost every weekend, and that is going to be you.
Congratulations.
You're not a lead guitar player, but
rehearsal is Wednesday.
Rehearsal is Wednesday. Yeah, you're going to be. You will be playing lead guitar on these songs in front of thousands of people. Don't embarrass yourself.
Don't embarrass me.
Don't embarrass me.
That's all I ask.
So I began practicing. That was innovation born out of a necessity. All right, Fuller, you got a story for us?
Yeah, I mean, what you said, Brian, I think all the products we have at Worship Tutorials are innovations because we need them. I think of pads, obviously. The pads player that we created with Mainstage was because we wanted a better way to use pads live
at our church.
At the touch of a button. I think the year was 93. I was a freshman in college. I met a guy. His name was Matt King, one of the best drummers I've ever played with. He lives in Nashville now. He's an awesome drummer. And we started a band. It was me, him, and a keyboard player, and we didn't have a bass player. And but we wanted to start playing because we were practiced up. We had a bunch of songs, and we were ready to go. So instead of waiting for a bass player, I had an Atari 1040 ST computer, the one with the floppy disk drives, and I had been dabbling with MIDI programming. And so I was like, what if I pre-recorded a bass part with MIDI and we played to a click track? And then that way we could at least start doing shows. This was 93. And I did that. We had a show, and our very first show we ever did, there was a bass player there.
You just described what you were doing before. Well, I don't know. I don't look at the demo. How many of you guys were born in
Yeah,
1993.
probably not that many.
Fuller's developing click tracks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I had never heard of it. I just thought of it, and I was like, okay. I think it was before anybody was doing. I don't know anybody that was doing click tracks at that time. And the very first show we ever did, there was a bass player there, and he was like, "You guys need a bass player?" So we only did it at one show.
Oh, nice.
But it worked.
Yeah.
It accomplished what we
People were
wanted.
certainly probably recording the click tracks.
I was super nervous.
Live performing with them.
Yeah, for sure.
Pretty
with a pre-recorded bass part.
Pretty cutting edge.
Yeah,
for that.
and it was a MIDI. It was MIDI too from 1993, so it probably sounded terrible.
People don't understand how old MIDI is.
Yeah.
MIDI's been around.
Yeah, MIDI's been around for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with bass, you can do a cheesy bass sound and still have it work.
But I would almost argue that you using that limitation and trying to figure out how to do something may have actually caused that bass player to be like, oh snap, maybe they do need somebody.
Cool. Yeah. Oh yeah, he was like, there's no bass player.
Yeah, but because you did something. So sometimes I think we think that when we have a limitation, it's just gonna people say, I don't want to leave a gap in my teams each week because then we're without a musician. And I'm like, yeah, but then people see a gap.
Yeah.
And they see, oh, maybe there is a need, as opposed to having the same people. And we've talked this to death a lot, but it's a very similar concept.
Yeah.
People are talking about when they were born. David B, 1989. John Burgos, 93 is the year I was born.
Good year. I just retracted it.
BTSMCHL, 1960.
That's a good year.
Yes, thanks for watching. You should have bought a Gibson Les Paul that year when you were 0. And it would be worth a lot of money right now.
Yeah. Oh, man.
That helps absolutely no one.
Rent Outlaw was -13 in 93, so there you go.
That's ridiculous.
All right, I guess that's what that means. Okay, so we're going to move this thing along. If you guys have questions about the topic or about anything, please let us know. If you give us a super chat, we will answer your question unless it's inappropriate. Yeah. But it's certainly not necessary.
I love how you have to answer that.
I think if you look at
I just want to throw it out there. We'll take your money, but we won't answer your stupid question.
I try to look at needs because a lot of people think I need this, I don't have this, I think if you look at it from a spiritual perspective, it makes sense because if God is the God of everything and has unlimited resources,
owns the cattle on 1,000
and loves
hills.
you like a child, he in theory could give you everything you need, right? And so you don't have something, and this is my personal philosophy in life. I do not have something because God does not want me to have it right now.
Oh.
And that doesn't mean I don't work for it and I don't plan for it and I don't try to get it, but I am content with the fact that when I am ready to have something, the Lord will allow me to have it. And I will never be able to get something that he does not approve. And so I think that there's a spiritual aspect to it. And I think when you look at your worship team and you look at your church and your ministry and all that you're trying to do, and if your philosophy is we don't have what we need, then what you're really saying is God is not providing for me. So I think it's a very healthy perspective to go, okay, I don't have what I need now. And so that must mean that I have everything that I need to do what God wants me to do right now. And like the Bible says, if you can be trusted with little, then you'll be given more. So it's good to want stuff and there's nothing wrong with it. But if you have been assigned a task to do, the Lord has given you everything you need, or he's given you the wherewithal to figure out how to achieve the results that he wants you to achieve.
I'd say that, if I sat there and I just threw a pity party and I was like, man, I'm just worship leader with no musicians, I wouldn't have become a better guitar player.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to do what I'm doing right now. I would have missed out on this if I decided to say, what the heck, God? Where are my homie? Where are my bandmates? Where are the dudes? Where are the ladies? Where is everybody?
Yeah.
And I was single at the time, so I made the most of my singleness too. For real. I remember I had a pretty intense conversation with God and myself, and I was like, I'm done trying. I got other things I need to focus on. No kidding, a month or two later, I ended up meeting my wife. But I was legitimately serious about the fact that, God, you have, maybe this is speaking to somebody in their singleness. And I get that. I hate being I hate the singleness talks because it's always easy for somebody who's married or in a relationship to say that. But I know for me, I tried to take that into my own hands, and God was like, well, I'm trying to teach you something else right now. And like I spent the time focusing on getting better as a musician, as a worship leader. I had led worship before, but I was never in charge of a ministry. So before I just kind of like showed up and like sang songs with the band and we did that, and like that was all I had to do. But now I was actually in charge of a ministry, recruiting people, training people, onboarding, resourcing them, empowering them, equipping them. Most people in their 40s and 50s, so 20, 30 years older than me. Yeah. First job out of college, and I was trying to figure all that out. So instead of sitting there being like, I want a woman, I was like, God, there's a reason why I'm single. You have something to teach me.
Yeah.
And then because of that, I was able to provide for and be a somewhat attractive man for my wife to be like, man, this guy has his life something
attractive in like
together.
the fact that like this person is like can function in society successfully.
Yes. Like this dude is not some deadbeat wallowing. You know,
I thought you were talking about your mustache.
No.
No, that's
Hello.
it.
Lady, sorry, I'm taken. My wife is very glad it's almost gone.
Demographics on this YouTube channel
are very wide.
Very
We're
male.
like it's like 75-25.
Yeah, you're fine.
But I spent that time. My limitation to me was I'm not good enough, and I don't have a woman. I don't have a wife. And I focused. I was like, all right. And so limitations. You know, if you focus on what you don't have, then you're going to realize what you don't have. If you focus on what you do have, then you can make the most of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were talking before this video. By the way, it's 11:24. What time are we gonna
I don't think it's
close
close.
this thing down? We got 15 minutes. Okay, so we don't know what your limitations are in your ministry, but we do know.
I do.
That they're probably
We know what they are.
They're going to fall
exactly
into
what
a couple
they are.
categories.
Yeah.
You don't have enough volunteers.
That's one.
To form teams, to have to fill a band. You definitely don't have enough money.
Definitely.
Like churches, you just don't.
You're lacking gear that you need to get to the next
equipment.
level.
You lack things that you would want to make the worship experience better. You don't have time, right?
Well, yeah, most people, you probably don't have the time, or your volunteers don't have the time.
Your volunteers don't have the time. You don't have, you work another job, that you don't have time to devote.
Your pastor's not giving you any of the information you need.
There you go.
There's a congregation member that hates you.
There's a couple
and thinks you're terrible.
Yes. Welcome to the.
It's too loud. You don't do enough hymns.
Welcome to ministry. We're all in this thing together.
If you're pleasing everybody, you're probably actually doing something wrong.
So we were talking before this video. There are a few things that you can do that will address most of these things in one sweep, right? One of them is
quit.
You can quit, and then all of that stuff will go away.
Yep, and you'll never have problems for the rest of your life.
Planning.
Joke.
We're talking planning and preparing and doing it well in advance of Sunday.
Yeah.
We engage with people on this channel over and over and over again, and we hear over and over again about how either you as a worship leader or your worship leader, you're on a team, you don't get materials, you don't get songs, you don't get scheduled until like the week of or a few days ahead of time. If you are working with limited resources, which is what we're talking about, the more that you can diligently plan ahead, far into the future, the further into the future, the better you will be able to utilize those resources effectively to their fullest potential, and the more success you will find with inside of those limitations. And we run into this thing all the time too, about how like this much planning is like, what about the Holy Spirit? We're not even going to address it. That argument is so stupid. I'm just going to say it.
Wrong channel.
Yeah. You need to plan, and the more you can plan ahead of time, the better.
Because you're taking your limitations that you're going to see as being weaknesses, and you're turning them into strengths. You have a cheat code, and if you know exactly what you're up against every week.
If you want to get spiritual about it, you can, because this is all over the Bible. The parable of the talents is exactly what this is about, right? Yeah. About taking what you have and maximizing it.
And doing
the person who buried it didn't get it. He got it taken away from him and given to the person who utilized it the best, right? So this principle is not only great leadership, it's very biblical, and I think it honors God in our ministries. So if you wanna think about planning as though you're not leaving room for the Holy Spirit, I would suggest that argument is anti the Holy Spirit. It goes against the leadership of the Holy Spirit and the Lord. That's all I'm going to say about that. Okay.
The thing about it,
We're very passionate about
take the most of your... Here's why this is so hard, because to take advantage of limitations requires effort, it requires thinking, it requires innovation, and it requires passion and drive and desire. And the reality is, if we're honest, a lot of us lack that because we've become complacent or we've become tired or burnt out. And the reality is, the greatest... I've been watching the series on History Channel called The Machines That Build Us and the Food That Build Us. And it's all these stories of how these great corporations came into existence. And all of them start with a guy who has nothing,
yes,
but has an idea and needs something, and it's like his life depends on it, and so he innovates and he creates and he fails and he succeeds and he fails and he succeeds, and then finally you have like Hershey, the chocolate company, or Disney World.
He just wanted to eat some chocolate.
Or Apple.
Yeah, Apple, Pixar, I mean, you name it. Every great company starts like this, and what they have is they have a person that's driving it. It's the person that wakes up and says, I am not going to stop until I figure this out. Instead of going, oh, wow, woe is me, we can't buy a new PA system, our sound is terrible. Approach it from the perspective, all right, this is what we have.
Yeah.
What can we do to maximize this? Mm-hmm. What do we have to do to fix this? What do we have to do? What do we have to change? And you have to get there. And otherwise, ministry is going to be the worst experience of your life. You have to accept the fact that you are going to always be under-resourced, but you do have something that a lot of people don't. You have probably a large group of people that want to help you. Yeah. You have a large group of people that really believe in the cause, and they want to come alongside you. And a lot of them have various gifts and skills and talents that if you just put some thought and time and effort into it, you could come up with some pretty killer solutions.
Yeah. So plan your worship sets, plan your scheduling, and do it like we're talking like a month ahead at least. We do
I'd say even 2 weeks would be a start for some people.
Yeah. I would say even before planning, simplify.
You would do
simplify. Simplify.
Yeah.
Make everything easier.
And take inventory.
Yeah. That's another point.
Leaders define reality.
Yep.
And what that means is a leader is the person who's willing to say, here is the crappy situation we're in, or here is the situation that we have found ourselves in that we do not like, if you want to say it a little nicer.
Yeah.
Let us figure out where we want to go, and until we get there, what we're going to do, and then how we're going to get from where we are to where we are going. Just start there. And if you do that, if you're finding that nobody takes you seriously, I can almost guarantee that if you start defining reality and you start like talking in this kind of way and figuring out this is where we're at, this is where we want to go, this is what we can do to get there. I almost guarantee if you think people don't take you seriously now, they will when you provide a compelling vision of the future. And that's vision casting.
If they don't want to come along, you don't want them on your team.
Yeah.
Even if you only have a few people, you don't want people that aren't going to get on board with the vision of the future. Thank you, Bradley Olson, for your super chat.
Yes.
Okay, so plan.
Simplify.
Define things for people. Fuller, simplify. Yes. Make things
easier. Everything can be made easier.
Yeah, don't try to introduce new songs, arrangements all the time.
Easy isn't cheating either.
I'll give you one simple example.
Yeah.
If every drummer that comes in brings his own drum kit every Sunday morning, that it's like, just shoot me in the face right now. Shoot me in the face right now. So like, if you're doing that, that's one just small little example of how you are just moving backwards.
Yeah,
you really are, and so there's so many of these types of things. So figure out ways to simplify. And another word that I can't think of because I'm concussed right now, but when you systemize, like we had to at our last church, we had to go. Okay, we're just buying helixes. If you're playing guitar with us, you're using our helix.
We did that?
Yeah, didn't we?
No.
When did I do that?
I think you must have us confused.
Your head really is hurting.
We had HX effects.
Well, we're like, you can use ours or you bring your own.
We did have like a house version.
Yeah, we're like not using, like, we got to stop this where someone's bringing in 2 Marshall stacks, 5 minutes before friggin' rehearsal starts.
I'm gonna say one thing in closing.
If they did it though, I'd be compelled to want to hear that.
I would not. I guarantee it sounds terrible.
Because
anyone that tries to do that.
Here's my last thought. You as the leader need to work harder. And these guys are like, what are you talking about? You need to work harder. If you are working out of limitation, it doesn't even matter if you're working out of limitation or not. You need to work harder.
Yeah.
I don't know how hard you work right now, but I'm convinced that
I'll receive that word.
That most worship leaders, especially young worship leaders,
say it, Ryan.
Don't understand a fraction of
Shots
what
fired.
really needs to go into this job.
Yeah. Stop looking at hats.
To do it well.
Stop looking at fedoras.
And so here's what I'm talking about when I say work harder.
Get organized.
The one piece of it is planning and preparation and equipping your people. If you are not equipping people for your rehearsals and for Sundays weeks in advance, you're not even coming close to working hard enough.
Yeah.
Another thing is every morning when you show up to church,
I know where you're going.
How many things work?
I know where you're going. I don't know why you're going here.
Almost inevitably, nothing works, right? Or half of it works. And there's always, I like to think of it this way. There are always like 4 or 5 fires that are raging that somebody has to
get
put
your fire
out
extinguisher.
Before your band can play a song through the sound system and the words are on the screen and it works.
8 hours later.
There's always a million problems that you have to solve.
Yeah.
If you are not showing up an hour before anyone else on your team shows up to put those out, you need to work harder.
Yeah.
So,
or smarter. Harder and smarter could be the same thing.
You don't have to put out fires. You can just figure out how to keep it going.
Yeah. Somebody needs
so it doesn't go out of control.
So
simplification is a great. I mean that is the. I mean
systems.
For 3 weeks in a row at my last church, every time we showed up and it's set up. We're set up teardown, right?
Yeah.
Something did not work properly, and I got to the point where I was like, I'm literally taking this entire PA system home, even though I'm just contract.
It's reality.
I took the entire PA system to my house. And for 4 days, I hand wired a bunch of Cat 6 cables because I'm like, this is never going to be an issue again. and I was so like, ugh. And then it now works perfectly.
And see, that's
and I'm like,
work.
I did not want to do it. It was frustrating, but I'm like, I cannot let this happen again.
That's hard work.
This cannot happen again.
That is what it takes.
We had tacos first.
That is what it takes. Okay, you don't know how to hand wire Cat 6K or whatever it is.
I would have got someone else to do it.
Find somebody on.
I've never done that in my life. I YouTubed it.
Okay, you can learn. Yeah.
We had the right stuff, and I just YouTubed and watched how to do it. It's not rocket science.
I wanted all my guitars to play as good as physically possible.
Yeah, so you learned how to set them up.
So I learned how to do guitar setups on YouTube. Okay, that's a crazy example.
Ryan's a scientist. It doesn't count when he says he figures stuff out.
I think if you have the ability to play an instrument and lead worship, you can definitely figure out a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you're a special person. If you can lead music and you understand music and you can put a band together and stuff and you understand some tech, you probably have a lot of untapped gifts you don't even realize.
Yeah. I was on Facebook, as I often am, the other day, and I came across this conversation that Bradford had engaged in. And they were talking about paying musicians, which is a totally different topic. But somebody said, well, if we're not going to pay musicians, why do we pay pastors? And this person, I'm throwing someone under the bus. If you're watching, I apologize, but this triggered me. This person said, here's why. Pastors put a lot more time into it. Mm-hmm. And let me give you an example. And they listed how much time they spent as a worship leader, and it was like 10 hours a month. And I thought, like, as a volunteer, I spend that much time.
You're at church for 4 or 6 hours a day on Sunday.
That much time a week as a volunteer. And this person was leading. And I thought, like, how pathetic is it? Now, I think this person was saying that they led once a month. But still, if you're leading your team and you're only spending 10 hours a month, 10 hours a week, like, that's the minimum. That's what I spend as a volunteer with a demanding full-time job on the side. And a family. And lots of stuff. Like, I only have one child. So those of you that have multiple kids, I don't know how you do it, Fuller. Like, I'm taking Seth to something every night, like every evening.
I don't know how we do it either.
But you know,
me and my wife are constantly going, how did we do this before?
Right.
This is crazy.
What do we do with all our free time before kids?
We have no.
We have one. We have one kid, and we're like,
I don't understand how.
Dude, you should see my calendar right now.
It makes
Tennis,
it's
baseball,
like
soccer,
the reason that I'm gonna get myself in trouble.
Do it. I dare you.
When you watch live streams of churches that it's a hot mess most of the time is because one, we don't lead well and we don't work very hard.
Outside of the mix, that's a hard thing. I'll give people that. I do not blame you.
So
that's tough.
We can work harder and we can do better.
Almost
and
impossible.
I'm preaching to the choir. I would like to work harder personally.
Yeah.
It's not like we have everything figured out, but we've gone through the fire many times as we've tried to put them out. We get burned by them. I talked about fires burning, and you get to church every week. Many of those have burned us in the process, right? And so we've figured a few things out along the way, but I just want to encourage you to. There's always the rededication moment. Rededicate yourself to this job if you're doing
Hallelujah, I see that hand.
Somebody from Wichita County.
I need to start playing.
Make a commitment that you are going to work harder at this job. And if you don't want to work harder at it to do it to the best of your, let somebody else do it. You know? Let somebody else do it who will.
That could be a good thing. That could be a good thing too, to pass it off on somebody and give you do the things only you can do. That's leadership. That's delegation.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be you. You don't have to be the one who makes ProPresenter work.
Oh, and but
somebody needs to be
something else that should be said, Brian, in addition to what you just said is no one's making you do this. Yeah. This is your choice. It's your choice to be in ministry. It's your choice to lead a team. So I'm flabbergasted by how many people constantly complain about their situation. I'm like, then stop. No one's this. We don't. I mean, now we don't here in America. We don't live in a country where where you're forced to do something, right? Yeah. We have the freedom to choose. Yes, so I mean, you chose the path. Just figure out. It comes with the territory. So figure out how to do it well and figure out where the balance is. And I'll tell you right now, if you just simplified stuff. Your life would be so much easier. Yeah. And I mean, one thing we've been talking about a lot this year that everyone thinks we're crazy is just cut your song list down to 20 songs. Yeah. I mean, that right there will change a lot of your problems.
Just put it on paper. It sounds weird, but just do it and you'll realize actually that still gives us a lot of variety.
Yeah, exactly.
What is it? What is the way to find a combination?
Play a song once every 3 months.
Don't you multiply 20 by 19 by 18 by That's how many different. Well, that's how many different orders you can put them in, I guess. But still,
that's using the same songs every week.
Yeah. That's assuming you're doing 20 songs. Okay. Yeah. But still, the point is
20's a lot.
There's a way to figure. There's a way to figure out for you smart math.
30's the magic number, people. I'm telling you, 30 songs is all you should have on your set list.
You're repeating songs once a quarter.
Yep. It's helped our team. My personal, the church that I lead worship for right now, our team is growing in quality. The experience is getting better and better, and and a lot of it is because
they know the songs.
Yeah, we show up we're rehearsing tonight, songs we've done, and it's gonna be fun, and everyone's gonna know it. We're throwing one new little piece in there, but it's and it's starting to gel, man, and it's starting to. I'm starting to really enjoy it.
Yeah. All right, Israel Garcia, thank you for your super chat.
He must really want to know the answer to this
from Israel. Oh, he asked a question. Okay, it's not related to the topic, but we're going to answer it because we said we would. And it's not inappropriate.
It's inappropriate. Sorry. Stream's over.
Brad deems it inappropriate.
Why don't you
cut the stream?
Fuller, why don't you like P90 pickups?
Have I said that multiple times?
You must have.
Probably have. So
Israel has heard it.
He said you said it once and he remembered it.
Yeah, so I have mentioned multiple times P90. I don't have any guitars with P90s on them, right?
Okay.
I'm not a huge fan. All my experiences with P90s have not allowed me to get the tone that I was looking for. However,
I know. Yep.
Curtis Lamberton.
Yes, Lamberton, but yes.
Lamberton.
Of Lamberton.
Curtis Lamberton.
He should change his name to Lamberton.
Yeah, he really should legally. It's just one letter. He makes a P90s. What are they called?
Ristrettos.
The Ristrettos.
They're in that red guitar.
I can't remember. Yeah, it was.
I mean, not that looking at them is going to help.
No, looking at it won't. But I remember. I think. One of you guys let me borrow this guitar or something.
I think I did.
And I played it, and I was like, oh, And then I think I told Brian, I was like,
They're
this
good.
is the first set of P90s I've ever thought I want a set of this.
They are P90s for people who don't like P90s.
Exactly.
That's
Well,
what
and then
That's how
Curtis,
they market.
I was texting Curtis and he said, yeah, make those for people. I'm like, you nailed it, dude.
So what don't you like about
I just-
traditionally voiced P90s?
So, I mean, I'm a Fender guy. I love Strat, love Tele. I love the bell chiminess of that. I do like humbuckers as well for rock. But there's some about the P90s just have always seemed really mid-rangey and kind of brittle to me. That's just my ear.
Thin, wiry. You can never get them clean.
And I do a lot of production music and mixing, and I always just feel like they're problematic mixing them. Like the Strat and the Les Paul always just fall right into place, and the P90s are always like, do I boost? Do I cut? Is it too loud? Is it too soft? So, but yeah, so it's just a taste thing. I've heard some amazing tones from P90s.
Yes.
And Lambert's tone definitely has, I think, the best P90s on the market, but
if you don't like traditional
if you don't like traditional P90s.
there you go.
So yeah.
He made them for David Ryan Harris.
And honestly, it could also
Because he
be
doesn't like traditional P90s?
Yeah, John Mayer's guitar players.
yeah, it could also be a generational thing. No one used P90s when I was in high school, when I was in college. It's kind of like a newer thing. So I grew up exposed to the Strat sound and the Les Paul
What's
sound.
interesting is the humbucker that we know today was developed by Gibson to replicate the sound of a P90
That's funny.
that they put in their
Yeah.
first guitars.
Wouldn't you say grunge was probably the first genre that's really started using P90s?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I feel like
think
the
grunge,
Seattle
I think
sound.
of-
Like Nirvana,
Nirvana.
and those guys really started using the P90s, and that was like a miserable time in my life because I was detoxing from 80s shred metal.
I thought grunge was supposed to help people through that.
No, dude, it was terrible. I remember the first time I heard the solo to Smells Like Teen Spirit, I was like cussing in my
What
room.
is this?
Like, how can this be on the radio?
Kim, thank you so much for your super
Oh,
chat.
Kim.
We appreciate it. We hope you're doing well.
Yeah,
We know Kim. Kim is a friend.
Kim's a great friend. Yeah.
We appreciate that. Thanks, Kim.
P90s are inappropriate.
All right, it's time for us to go eat tacos. Hey, we want to thank you for hanging with us
Yeah.
today. It got a little salty at times.
Yeah.
But, I hope that...
If we're
I
not
hope that-
passionate, you
Yeah.
don't want to watch. So.
I hope that I hope that hearing stories of how people, I hope that hearing stories of how people sort of got better because of limitations
Yes.
that they faced, inspire you to do the same. We are all capable of greatness. I believe that to be true. Every single
Absolutely.
person is capable
Anyone can cook.
of doing great. Fuller's a chef, he knows. Is capable
That was
of
Ratatouille.
doing great things. Now, we're capable of doing different great things, but often it is the limitations in our life that
Yep.
we face
Yep.
that inspire us into that greatness. And so,
Yes.
I hope that is going to be true for you in your life and in your ministries. I hope that God does amazing things through your ministries, and that God uses you to do great things in the face of the limitations that you face. So with that,
Adventure is out there.
Yes. With that,
To infinity and beyond.
we're going to say goodbye, and I
Got nothing right now.
highly recommend, guys, to go with the pork tacos. When
If
we
they
go
have
order, if they have it, what are the pork like the Mexican
Pastor.
El Pastor. Al Pastor. That is the one you guys should get. I know Bradford goes
I'll order for you.
Goes for different
Pardon,
flavors.
monsieur.
steak.
Je voudrais un
The steak.
pastor.
I ate a steak last night.
Sometimes
but
I
I'll
get
probably
the
eat
cow
more.
head meat.
Yeah. So that's what we're up to. We'll see you guys later.
bread?
Hey, a couple things in closing. We're gonna
This stream
we're
is
gonna
now
loop-
going to be an hour long.
We're gonna loop Fuller into this conversation right now.
Sweet.
We might be doing these live videos once a month instead of once a week. We're thinking about doing that, which would give us time to do other things the rest of the time in the month.
That you will see Thursday.
That might be coming.
For example.
So we'll see you
example.
again, but we're not exactly sure
We'll see you at the movies.
how often. Yeah. Bye bye, everybody. Thanks for watching. In the